What if I told you that spending the next few minutes with me could save you from 30 years of wasted life? Sounds impossible, right? Well, here's the uncomfortable truth that most people will never hear. There's a group of individuals who figured out exactly what matters in life, and they're desperately trying to tell us, but we're not listening. These people are the dying. A palliative nurse named Bronnie Ware spent years beside patients in their final weeks, and what she discovered will shake you to your core. She documented the 5 most common regrets of people facing death, and I'm warning you right now, this isn't comfortable content. This is the kind of truth that'll make you question everything about how you're currently living. But here's why you need to hear it. Every single one of these regrets is completely preventable, and you still have time to change course. Now, before we dive into these life-changing insights, do me a favor. If this content provides value and makes you think differently about your life, hit that like button and subscribe to support this channel. We're building a community of people who want depth, truth, and practical wisdom instead of surface-level motivation. Your support helps us create more content like this that actually transforms lives rather than just entertaining them. Here's what makes this different from every other self-help video you've watched. These aren't theories from some guru who's never faced real consequences. These are desperate whispers from people who've run out of time, and they're begging you not to make their mistakes. By the time you finish watching this, you'll understand why most people live their entire lives backwards, and more importantly, how to flip the script before it's too late. The 5 regrets we're about to explore aren't random complaints. They're a systematic blueprint for living without regret. And if you stick with me until the end, I'll show you exactly how to use these deathbed insights to transform your life starting today. Trust me, this isn't just another video you'll forget tomorrow. This is information that could literally save you from a lifetime of what if. There's something profound about listening to someone who's standing at life's final threshold. Bronnie Ware, a palliative nurse, spent years beside dying patients, and what she discovered will shake you to your core. These weren't random complaints or bitter rants. They were crystal-clear insights from people who'd stripped away all the BS that clutters our daily existence. When you're facing your last breath, suddenly everything becomes brutally honest. Think about it. When someone's got nothing left to lose, no image to maintain, no future to impress, they speak the rawest truth you'll ever hear. Ware documented these regrets of the dying, not as morbid curiosities, but as urgent wake-up calls for the living. These 5 regrets aren't just statistics. They're a mirror reflecting what matters most when all the noise fades away. Every single person she encountered wished they'd lived differently, and their whispered confessions hold the keys to your authentic living. What struck Ware most wasn't the fear of death itself, but the overwhelming sadness about unlived life. Patient after patient expressed the same themes, not about money left unmade or promotions missed, but about courage not summoned and authentic feelings never expressed. The dying don't regret the risks they took, they regret the ones they didn't. They don't mourn the times they were vulnerable, they grieve the walls they never let down. These mortality wisdom insights reveal something revolutionary. The path to meaningful relationships and personal fulfillment isn't complicated, it's just scary. When you strip away society's expectations and your own self-imposed limitations, what remains is startlingly simple. The dying taught Ware that living without regrets isn't about perfection, it's about courage. And if you're willing to listen, their whispers can transform how you approach every single day you have left. I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself. This was the most common regret, and it'll hit you like a freight train once you really understand what it means. We're all walking around wearing masks, playing roles that society, our families, or our own fears have assigned us. But here's the brutal truth. Every day you spend being someone else is a day stolen from your authentic living. The dying patients didn't regret their failures. They regretted never trying to discover who they really were underneath all those expectations. You know that voice inside your head? The one that whispers what you really want to do with your life when nobody's watching. That's not some fantasy. That's your authentic self trying to break through the concrete of conformity you've poured over it. The dying taught Ware something revolutionary. The biggest risk isn't following your dreams and failing. It's never following them at all. Every passion you've buried, every creative impulse you've silenced, every authentic desire you've dismissed as impractical, these become the chains that bind you to a life of quiet desperation. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. Most of us are living lives designed by committee. Your parents wanted you to be stable. Your spouse wants you to be predictable. Society wants you to be productive. And somewhere in that mix, you forgot what you actually want. The patients facing death didn't care about stability anymore. They cared about whether they'd ever been truly alive. They realized that safety is often just another word for emotional cowardice, and that the practical choice is usually the soul-crushing one. But authentic living isn't about dramatic life overhauls or reckless abandonment of responsibility. It's about small daily acts of courage, speaking up when you disagree, pursuing interests that light you up, setting boundaries that protect your energy. The dying wished they'd had the guts to disappoint people in service of their true selves. They learned too late that betraying yourself to keep others comfortable is the cruelest form of self-betrayal. And once you understand this, you'll start seeing opportunities everywhere to remove that mask, one courageous choice at a time. I wish I hadn't worked so hard. Particularly common among male patients, this regret reveals how we've been sold a lie about success and personal fulfillment. We've created golden cages for ourselves, convinced that more hours equal more worth, that busy equals important, that exhaustion equals dedication. But the dying saw through this illusion with devastating clarity. They realized they'd traded their life's most precious currency, time, for a paycheck and a pat on the back from bosses who forgot their names the day they left. The work-life balance isn't some trendy concept. It's a matter of life and death, literally. When you're on your deathbed, you won't remember the overtime hours or the projects that seemed so urgent. You'll remember the birthday parties you missed, the conversations you cut short, the moments of joy you postponed for someday. The dying patients taught Ware that we've confused being busy with being productive, confused being needed at work with being valued as humans. They discovered too late that their companies replaced them within weeks, but their families mourned them forever. Here's the uncomfortable truth. We use work as an excuse to avoid the harder stuff. Real intimacy, authentic relationships, facing our own mortality and what truly matters. It's easier to say, "I'm too busy," than to admit we're scared of vulnerability or uncomfortable with stillness. The dying regretted this avoidance because they realized that meaningful relationships and personal growth require the one thing work always demands: presence. You can't build deep connections on leftover energy and weekend scraps. But this isn't about abandoning ambition or professional growth. It's about right-sizing work's role in your life. Maybe that means setting a hard boundary like leaving the office by 6 p.m. 3 days a week, or refusing to check emails after 8 p.m., or taking that vacation you've been postponing for 2 years. The dying wished they'd worked to live instead of living to work. They regretted choosing stress over peace, competition over connection, achievement over fulfillment. They learned that success without satisfaction is just sophisticated failure. And they discovered that the pursuit of life priorities requires the same energy and focus we pour into our careers, except the dividends are measured in love, growth, and peace instead of dollars and promotions. I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. This regret cuts to the heart of emotional expression and reveals how we imprison ourselves behind walls of politeness, fear, and assumed vulnerability. The dying didn't regret the harsh words they'd spoken in anger. They regretted the loving words they'd swallowed in fear. They mourned the "I love yous" never said, the apologies never offered, the gratitude never expressed. Their hearts were graveyards of unspoken truths, and that silence haunted their final moments. We've been conditioned to believe that emotional restraint equals maturity, that keeping feelings locked up equals strength. But the dying taught Ware something profound. Unexpressed emotions don't disappear. They rot inside us, poisoning our authentic living and sabotaging our meaningful relationships. Every feeling you suppress to keep peace actually creates war within yourself. Every truth you swallow to avoid discomfort eventually becomes a lie you're living. Think about the relationships in your life right now. How many conversations are you avoiding? How many people don't really know how much they mean to you? How many conflicts are you letting fester because honest emotional expression feels too risky? The dying realize that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's the price of connection. They discovered that the walls we build to protect ourselves from pain also block us from love, joy, and authentic intimacy. The courage to express feelings isn't about emotional dumping or dramatic confrontations. It's about the quiet bravery of saying, "I'm proud of you" to your kids. "I was wrong" to your spouse. "I'm grateful" to your friends. It's about choosing uncomfortable honesty over comfortable pretense. The dying wished they'd risked being misunderstood rather than guaranteeing being unknown. They learned that emotional expression is the bridge between isolation and connection, between existing and truly living. And once you find this courage, you'll discover that most people are desperately hungry for the same authentic communication you're afraid to offer. I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. This regret reveals one of modern life's cruelest ironies. We're more connected than ever, yet lonelier than we've ever been. The dying patient spoke of friendships that withered not from conflict or betrayal, but from neglect and the slow erosion of busyness. They realized too late that meaningful relationships require maintenance, that friendship maintenance isn't automatic, it's intentional. Every text you don't send, every call you postpone, every gathering you skip is a small death in the relationship. Here's what the dying understood that we're still learning. Friendships don't pause, they fade. That college buddy you keep meaning to call? That relationship is dying one missed opportunity at a time. That group of friends you used to see regularly? They're moving on without you, creating new memories and inside jokes that you'll never share. The dying regretted assuming their friends would always be there, waiting patiently while life got in the way. Social media has given us the illusion of friendship maintenance while actually enabling our emotional laziness. We think liking a post equals caring, that following someone's life through curated highlights equals knowing them. But the dying saw through this digital deception. They craved the weight of real conversation, the texture of shared experiences, the irreplaceable comfort of being truly known by another human being. They realized that meaningful relationships can't survive on crumbs of casual interaction. The brutal truth is that friendship takes work, and most of us are terrible at it. We prioritize everything else, career, romance, family obligations, while assuming our friends will understand and wait. But the dying learned that every relationship has an expiration date, and we never know when it's coming. They regretted not fighting harder to maintain the bonds that once gave life meaning. The fix isn't complicated. Schedule regular check-ins like business meetings, send voice messages instead of texts, plan activities together instead of just talking about it. They wished they'd been more intentional about choosing happiness through connection rather than productivity through isolation. And they discovered that staying in touch isn't about finding time, it's about making time for what makes life worth living. I wish I had let myself be happier. Perhaps the most heartbreaking regret of all, because it reveals how we become our own worst enemies in the pursuit of personal fulfillment. The dying didn't regret external circumstances or bad luck. They regretted internal resistance to joy. They realized they'd spent their entire lives waiting for permission to be happy, as if joy required a license they never qualified for. They'd treated happiness like a luxury instead of a choice, a reward instead of a right. This regret exposes a tragic truth about human nature. We're hardwired to find problems, to anticipate disaster, to prepare for the worst-case scenario. But the dying learned that this survival mechanism becomes a joy-killing machine when left unchecked. They'd spent decades postponing happiness until conditions were perfect, until goals were achieved, until security was guaranteed. They waited for happiness to happen to them instead of choosing to happen to happiness. Think about your own relationship with joy. How many times do you catch yourself saying, "I'll be happy when you get the promotion, when you lose the weight, when you find the right person, when the kids are older, when you have more money"? The dying realize that this when never comes because there's always another condition, another milestone, another reason to defer contentment. They discovered that choosing happiness is a daily practice, not a destination you eventually reach. The permission we never gave ourselves isn't about toxic positivity or ignoring real problems. It's about recognizing that happiness is often a choice disguised as a feeling. The dying regretted all the moments of simple joy they dismissed as silly or inappropriate. They wished they'd laughed louder, celebrated smaller victories, found pleasure in ordinary moments. They learned that waiting for perfect circumstances to be happy is like waiting for all traffic lights to be green before starting your journey. And they discovered that the pursuit of life priorities begins with giving yourself permission to enjoy the life you're already living while building the one you want. Standing at the threshold between life and death, these patients became unwitting philosophers, their final insights more valuable than any wisdom literature ever written. Their regrets weren't random complaints, they were systematic revelations about authentic living, meaningful relationships, and the pursuit of personal fulfillment. Every single theme they shared points to the same revolutionary truth: the life you're living right now is the only one you get, and most of us are sleepwalking through it. Here's what makes these deathbed insights so powerful. They're not theoretical. These weren't people speculating about mortality wisdom from the comfort of good health. They were individuals staring directly into the face of their own ending, with nothing left to lose and everything to teach. Their regrets become our roadmap. Their hindsight becomes our foresight. They'd stripped away all the illusions we use to avoid confronting what really matters, and what remained was startlingly simple: courage, connection, authenticity, and choice. The most profound lesson from their whispered confessions isn't about death, it's about life. Every regret they shared is preventable, every mistake correctable, every opportunity still available to you right now. The courage to live authentically? You can choose it today. The balance between work and life? You can adjust it this week. The emotional expression you've been avoiding? You can practice it with the next person you see. The friendships you've neglected? You can reach out before this day ends. But here's the catch, and the dying patients would want you to understand this: knowing these truths isn't enough. Knowledge without action is just sophisticated procrastination. Their regrets become meaningless unless they inspire your changes. The mirror at the end of time reflects not what you've learned, but what you've lived. And every day you have left is another chance to ensure that when your time comes, you'll have no regrets to whisper. Only gratitude for a life lived fully, authentically, and without compromise. So here we are, at the end of these profound revelations from people who've seen life's final curtain. But this isn't really an ending, it's your beginning. Those 5 regrets aren't just stories from strangers. They're mirrors reflecting choices you're making right now, today, in this very moment. The question isn't whether you understand these lessons, it's whether you'll act on them. Here's the brutal reality check. Watching this video changes nothing. Nodding along with these insights while continuing your old patterns is just intellectual masturbation. The dying patients didn't regret what they learned, they regretted what they knew but never applied. So right now I want you to think about one specific area where you're living someone else's life instead of your own. What mask are you wearing that needs to come off? What relationship needs a real conversation? What dream have you been suffocating with excuses? The people who shared these regrets with Bronnie Ware didn't get a second chance. But you do. You have the gift they'd give anything for: time. Not infinite time, not guaranteed time, but time nonetheless. Every morning you wake up is another opportunity to choose authenticity over approval, connection over productivity, courage over comfort. The dying taught us that life isn't a dress rehearsal, and you're not going to get a do-over. Now, if this content hits you the way it should have, here's what I need you to do. First, smash that like button because it tells YouTube that this kind of deep, transformational content matters more than surface-level entertainment. Second, subscribe and hit the notification bell, not just to support this channel, but because you deserve regular reminders to live intentionally instead of accidentally. And third, share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Trust me, you know exactly who that person is. But most importantly, don't let this be just another video you consume and forget. Pick one regret, just one, and commit to addressing it this week. Call that friend you've been meaning to reach. Have that difficult conversation you've been avoiding. Take one small step toward the life you actually want, instead of the one you think you should want. Because the only thing worse than having regrets at the end of your life is having the knowledge to avoid them and choosing not to act. The dying gave us their final gift, the wisdom of hindsight. Don't waste it. Your authentic life is waiting, but it won't wait forever.